Jonathan.
Simon.
I have a question for you, actually. And
shoot.
I like this thing where we ask about stuff from before, in the younger years.
Before, in another life.
So, do you remember there was this? It was the only question I would ever ask you before you wanted to introduce me to a new film.
I do remember.
Do you remember what the question is?
Yeah,
okay, so what was the question?
Is it scary?
No.
Oh, is there blood in it?
No. Okay, so there are several questions I used to ask for a movie. What was? Come up with some more. I'm sure that there are. I don't. Yeah.
Okay, I'm out.
Really?
Those are my two.
You used to get really annoyed with me about this one, so I'm surprised that you don't remember. But I used to ask you,
Probably blocked it out.
How does the baddie die?
You used to ask me, how does the baddie die?
Yeah, all the time. In every movie. I remember you showing me the box for Richie Rich, and you pointing out like who all the characters are. And you're like, this is the bad guy. And I'm like, and how does the baddie die? And you're like, why does that matter? Right? You're like annoyed with me. And I've been very...
you used to ask what happens at the end.
Exactly. I was always obsessed with what happens at the end, and, you know, how everything is resolved. And, you know, I think that I have there's a part of me that still goes, was that a satisfactory comeuppance or end for the villain, or, you know, if there is a villain or a villainous character. So I was going to ask you sort of what, in your opinion, makes a good villain death / comeuppance. And I do want to distinguish between those two things, because, you know, a villain may not die, but they may get what's coming to them. So you can talk about those two things. Go.
Okay, well, it depends what kind of film you're talking about, obviously. Obviously, the more grandiose the film, like, say, a Bond movie, the more grandiose the death needs to be.
Yeah.
And that's usually what's so much fun about watching a Bond movie, is like trying to guess how the baddie's going to die, and then going, well, that's just preposterous, isn't it? I mean, you remember Kananga?
You know,
no, that's the man with the golden gun.
No,
what is the flip? With
no,
the,
but the what is it? The slide whistle.
Yeah,
but he blows up and he explodes. That's
If anybody doesn't know, at the end of Live and Let Die, the baddie, Dr. Kananga, played by Yaphet Kotto, chokes on a compressed gas pellet that has been placed in his mouth by James Bond, and blows up like a balloon.
And then bursts.
It's quite hilarious.
There's no blood.
There's no blood.
Interesting.
But, yeah, I mean, okay. The guy in Long Kiss Goodnight. Mm-hmm. So he falls from quite a height, and then he falls onto a tanker that blows up.
Okay, that's good.
That's a good death. And obviously, you know, Alec Trevelyan in Goldeneye. So yeah, I mean, grandiose deaths for sort of big action blockbuster fantasy style movies, but then you have the sort of the more gritty kind of sort of comeuppance, where you think, you know, like somebody like Tommy DeVito in Goodfellas, played by Joe Pesci. He just gets shot in the head.
Yeah.
It's not like but all of that stuff that's built up, all of that crap that he's done throughout the entire movie, and he gets whacked. You know, it's a comeuppance. It's satisfying.
Going to whack me.
Yes.
So, are there any villain deaths that disturb you? Like, what villain death keeps you up at night? Or what did? Because for me, well, while you're thinking about it, for me, like, Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Melting Faces, also in Last Crusade, the Melting Skeleton, it was less gruesome, but still pretty scary. And I'm asking you to kind of reach back to when you were a kid, right? I mean, there was...
I don't know. I don't think that that necessarily... that it's a funny thing, because context. Because the villain death is normally the sort of... the sort of way to realize equilibrium by the end of the film. So it's kind of cathartic in a way. Like, you've been watching this person do dastardly deeds for the entire runtime. Dastardly deeds. Yes, that's what I said. Okay. I'm thinking about Max von Sydow twirling his moustache and going, what should I play with today? And yeah, so he's So I mean, I don't think any of that stuff really scared me. It was more like if you take Temple of Doom, so the midpoint of Temple of Doom where the heroes are in danger.
Yeah.
That's
more disturbing.
That would disturb me more. And then the death of the villain would be like a sort of comeuppance, and you'd be like, punching the air. That's what you're supposed to be doing. But as a kid, that stuff never scared me. I mean, the melting faces I used to think was cool.
It was cool. It was just that I think about. Well, a lot of things used to scare me, as we've established. But today's movie, the villain death is, even by the heroes, he's looking at it like it's quite disturbing, and we're going to see that when we watch it. And today's film is, Jonathan?
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Thank you very much.
So when I was a kid, there was a lot of fear around this film. Not necessarily around the villain death, but the villain himself. I remember I had a one of those Disney book and tape things.
Yeah,
and
I remember
it. 24 pages, glossy, and they had a tape that goes with it, and you could hear the chimes ring like this, and you would know it was time to turn the page. Obviously it wasn't not obviously, because nowadays you have games where the actors from the film come and reprise their roles, and et cetera, but in those days the actors never reprised their roles. And they didn't use excerpts from the film or anything like that, so they used to re-record the dialogue, and for some reason I was shit scared of Judge Doom in that book and tape.
More than Christopher Lloyd?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Christopher Lloyd was scary.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the images of Christopher Lloyd in the book, and it was the sound of the person reading it.
Do you know, I don't remember that, what he sounds like. I always think about that when we watch the movie, that the tape used to scare you, but I can't remember it.
It was the tape and the book. It was the combination thereof. And there was also, there were a lot of things. It was things that, like, our parents used to have to put in the cupboard and hide because I would know that it was there.
Yeah.
I remember there was also a book, Alan Alberg's Happy Families. There was a book with Mrs. Hay the horse, Mr. and Mrs. Hay the horse.
Yeah.
And there was a character in there that was sort of like lit from underneath.
Yeah,
it's
like headmaster.
It was that kind of thing where, if you shine a torch under your chin, you got that.
It's so funny. Shosh doesn't like me reading that book to my kid, so she asked me to give it back to the parents.
Oh my goodness, I was shit scared of that, and I don't quite know what. I mean, I've looked at it now, and it just looks like it's a character who's like, the nostrils are flared and everything, but like, but yeah, I was scared of that, and there were probably quite a few other things.
I had a lot of things that I had to ask her to put in the cupboard.
There was the troll from the Billy Goat's Gruff. Our sister, both our sisters at one point actually, pasted like a sort of a happy drawing over the top of the drawing of the troll.
I remember
I knew
that
it was there. I don't know why that worked, but I knew it was there.
When I read that book later on, it had been ripped off. So the troll was there, but also most of the color had been ripped off it as well. So right. It's like, why is this white? So, when you told me that years later, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but I was also a little scaredy cat.
Yeah, but so I mean, listen.
But then I paid it forward, obviously.
Our mother had to hide a lot of things. Like I remember, I borrowed Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from the. This is a common thing, isn't it? It's a recurring.
It's a common thing. You have a thing about Mr. Hyde.
Well, in my adulthood, I'm actually really fascinated with the story. Yeah, it still scares me. Like I'm fascinated with
the duality of man. And,
the duality of identity. But like the
we don't have soda right now because it's morning. This is the first time we've really done it in the morning. So
coffee. It doesn't have the same ring. When we finish the movie and we come sit down again, we're gonna have to bring soda.
There will be soda. Yeah, okay. Sorry, go
on. No, so I remember that I brought this home from the school library, and I read like a few pages of it, and I said to her, "Can you put this under your bed or something?" And she's like, "I'll put it in my drawer." Just like kept it there. I was like, in my mind, it's like it can get me.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was always like
I had that with tapes as well. Like when you put like a VCR in and a tape in the VCR. What is wrong with me? And you'd read.
How long do you have?
Yeah, there you go. Therapists baffled. So if
we got a new segment called Therapist Corner.
Therapist dungeon. So when you rewind it, it's like, oh, but he's alive at the beginning. He's still in the tape, you know.
Yeah, and I had that sort of that blockbuster thing where I had to be kind and rewind.
Yeah,
being kind to my future self, but yeah.
Anyway, absolute terror. I'm really excited about today's film. I just love it. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to look at it through the lenses of this podcast. So do you want to run the intro?
I do want to run the intro.
You keep talking and I'll run over you. 1, 2, 3, 4! What's our seat number? Hello and welcome to What's Our Seat Number, the show that endeavours to answer the world's burning questions. On the docket this evening, that's right, your question and mine. Have you checked in Walla Walla? Kokomon? I hear Kokomon's very nice this time of year. I'm Simon Gross, a 3D cadaver collector with thoughts of expanding into the field of fly fishing and taxidermy. With me, and most definitely not touching himself under the table, my brother, the incompatible Johnny Gross, a filmmaker, the butcher, the baker, and original rump shaker.
What the fuck was all that?
Is that all right for you?
Yeah, that was all right for me. Next, what's the next bit?
I don't know. I think I've thrown you off a little bit. Do you want to do context?
I think you have. Context, yes, indeed.
What was it? Was it the not touching yourself under the table? You don't like it when I lie.
Oh my god. Okay. Well, we have a new segment, which is going to be in place of the comments section. If nobody writes anything, then I have nothing to fucking say.
You bastards.
Indeed. So this is the weekly roundup, and it's called Is It Newsworthy?
Okay, I don't know what he's doing, so this is new to me.
I've got a book. I've gone rogue.
Okay.
These are things that I read this week on the intranets. That someone felt the need to write an article about, and we have to decide, is it newsworthy? Okay, so apparently...
Wait, do I get to decide, or we decide together?
Well, I don't know. I'm just reading bullshit, right. And then, you know. Okay, so do you know who Miriam Margolyes is?
Yes.
She is the star of, the Bitpop player of Harry Potter, End of Days, and other things that I don't care to research right now.
Okay.
So I was scrolling through Facebook, and I found an article... that I can't remember what the website is, but it might have been The Sun or The Star or something that I keep getting like...
Some shite you never heard of.
Yeah, I keep getting like suggested. And apparently, in the ad break of this morning, the show presented by Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby, she farted.
Oh.
And when they came back from the ad break, Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby were laughing.
Okay.
And they found it
because
hilarious.
She farted.
Is this newsworthy? She seemed awfully pleased with herself.
I like to think so.
Okay, then. In other news, Nelson Mandela, Denise Richards, Busby Berkeley, Kim Kardashian, John Lennon, Gary Lineker, Judy Garland, Idi Amin, Wilson the Volleyball, Rick and Morty, Dwayne Johnson, Jackson Pollock, Jerry Seinfeld, the Queen,
fuck?
Bigfoot, Vigo the Carpathian, and Aslan himself have all recently done interviews declaring that they're not, repeat, not appearing in Spider-Man No Way Home. Are you excited about Spider-Man No Way Home?
I mean, I am, but I'm not. Wow. But first of all, you are just my favorite fucking person in the universe. Secondly, I'm really excited about the movie. I'm not excited about the crap that's I hate this. The whole thing, like, it's like Star Trek Into Darkness, so they're like, he's not Khan, and it's like, he's so obviously massively Khan, and then in the movie it's like, I'm Khan, and it's like, oh, we got you. No, just fucking, if you've got caught, right, you're in the movie, and they say, are you in the movie? Just say you're in the movie.
Yeah, they're not allowed to, though. That's what's hilarious.
But I don't understand why they bother keeping that sort of thing a secret if there's no possible way for them to do so.
I'll tell you what's bothering me. It's not about the possibility of all of these people appearing in Spider-Man No Way Home. It's more about the fact that Spider-Man is no longer the star of his own movie.
Yeah.
Homecoming, he was mostly the star, and Iron Man / Tony Stark was like a sort of mentor figure for him. But I mean, the thing about the MCU, I love the MCU, especially like the first run up until Far From Home. It's just brilliant, you know, and Far From Home is a nice little palate cleanser and everything. But I'm starting to get like a fatigue of the crossover.
I was just going to say, I have MCU fatigue at the moment.
It's not about MCU fatigue. It's also DC fatigue. It's all of the crossover stuff. I just want movies like Shazam or Wonder Woman or whatever it is that are not Wonder Woman 84. God no. That are just focused on the main character. Okay, it can be an ensemble piece within the universe of the movie, but like, you know, if you have Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and all of these other, you know, motherfuckers coming in and out of the movie or whatever, Spider-Man's kind of blending into the background, and it's like, well, why is he special? Why are his powers special? You know, I mean, it's another thing if it's a Justice League movie or an Avengers movie or something like that, and you know that it's an ensemble from the very beginning. But if you're making a Spider-Man movie, he should be the central figure, and he should be the only one who can solve the crisis at hand.
I mean, he usually is the only one who can solve the crisis at hand. You know, it's the issue that I'm having is it's sort of like the CG spectacle fatigue. Like I'm looking for those more homecoming, like smaller affairs.
Right.
You know, there is CG in it, but it's CG that's needed because Spider-Man can do things that real people can't do. Right. I feel like we digress from
absolutely.
The point. But the answer is yes, I'm excited, but I'm really tired of all the shit that's going on around it.
Okay. This may have been a piece of news that has been common knowledge for a while, but I didn't know it. Robert Zemeckis is directing the Disney live-action adaptation of Pinocchio.
Oh, I didn't know that.
What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, we know how I feel about the director in question. I feel that there's no need for any of these remakes.
There is no need for any of these remakes, and like, you know, Jon Favreau also is an amazing director and a fantastic improvisational comedic actor. But The Lion King was just pointless. After a while, it just becomes like sort of, you know, Gus Van Sant's Psycho. It's a, you know, shot-for-shot remake that's really not necessary.
And a CG fest, which is just
necessary, not necessary.
Unnecessary.
Unnecessary. Yeah. So I love Robert Zemeckis. He is, at least for a period, a specific period, one of my favorite directors out there. Up until, you know, he started dabbling in the uncanny valley arena of, you know, I would have loved to have seen, the best of the three movies that he made that are mocap. You got Beowulf, Polar Express, and Christmas Carol. I don't like the first two, but I love A Christmas Carol.
I like A Christmas Carol.
What would have been fantastic is if that had been live action and Jim Carrey had been piled under a shit ton of makeup. I would have loved it. I think that that it's just really unnecessary. And Zemeckis, you can see it in the beginning of his career as well, that he's got this tendency to sort of go towards the effects side of things. But in the first half of his career, in the first couple of decades, he really managed to combine the two, to be able to tell a compelling story with interesting characters, while at the same time creating these huge spectacles and these unprecedented, like, first timers, and sort of like reinventing the wheel in terms of effects. But not letting that side of it slide. And in terms of like the movies that I've seen of his recently, aside from Flight, which was actually pretty good, you know, The Witches, I thought was a very pointless remake, and I'm worried that Pinocchio is going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm gonna watch it because, I mean, aside from the fact that it's Disney, aside from the fact that it's Pinocchio, and I got a history of that movie as well, and we'll get to that one day when we talk about Disney movies. But I'll watch anything that Zemeckis makes, and I will probably be disappointed.
Apropos Zemeckis and his obsession with leaning on the CG, I do feel on the VFX. I do feel that this movie that we're going to watch today is a perfect example of those
inextricable.
Two. It's perfectly balanced and necessary and well done, and there's not like anything in it that makes me go bleh.
Yeah.
But yeah. I feel that all of the Disney remakes are completely unnecessary. I didn't enjoy a single one of them. I know that that's like not nice. But like, I mean, look, I appreciate the hard work that goes into creating. I quite enjoyed Aladdin, actually. I mean, I enjoyed it in the sense of, okay, that wasn't as shit as I thought it was going to be.
Right, but that's the issue, isn't it?
But like, I don't think that it's a necessary remake. I didn't need it, and I think that Will Smith, while he did a good job, and you know, whatever, it's just, it we already have a genie who was perfect, and Robin Williams, and we don't need it again. And I don't understand the fascination that studios have with it, apart from money grabbing. I just don't.
It is money grabbing.
I think it's so pointless, because you could create these new Disney movies. We're waiting for new Disney movies to come out. They could be spending their making, more 2D animated features like Princess and the Frog, which personally I like.
Princess and the Frog is incredible.
Yeah.
I love that movie. And I think there's a market for it. I don't think that everything needs to be 3D.
I really don't think everything needs to be 3D. In fact, I'm getting 3D fatigue from the Disney movies. Like they announced a new one. I can't even remember what it's called. I think the last one I actually enjoyed was Coco.
Yeah.
But after that, I've just lost track of them. I don't really enjoy them anymore.
I the lines are blurred for me. What's Pixar and what's Disney? But I like Moana.
I like Moana as well.
Yeah. And apparently Raya the Last Dragon. The Last Dragon.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
As I said, they all blur for me.
Yeah, apparently that's pretty good, but I'd really love to see some more traditional 2D animated, because it's not something that needs to be sort of chucked out and switched, for CG. And that's another thing I wanted to talk to you about a little bit later when we talk about the sort of the sequel ideas for Roger Rabbit. Is they wanted to do it with CG characters, and I'm just dead set against it. I think it's really pointless.
I think that first of all, nobody could have done this the way that Richard Williams did it, and we'll talk about who that is. And I really want to get into it, but I think that the feeling at the moment that I have, and I'm a 3D artist, right? That's my as much as
there's a difference between what you create and what you want to watch.
Yeah,
it's two different things.
We give me a new title every week. I'm a 3D artist, and I love 3D, and I love creating 3D. And if I could make 2D animations, then I would. But it's just I feel like it's a shame that it's so expensive, which with digital mediums now and creating things on give all your animators a Cintiq and have them draw it frame by frame. I'm sure that it's I'm sure that the costs are something that I don't understand, but audiences, I'm sure, want to see it. CG and 3D are no longer a new medium that everybody's going, about. We can go back. We can have both. There should be both. There's room for both, and I want both.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, one final little bit of news. This is nothing to do with anything I saw on the intranets. But last week I binged watched Midnight Mass, and I just wanted to say that was your recommendation. Yeah. I would have gotten to it eventually, but you're the one who spurred me to watch it now.
Yeah, I was nagging you.
And it was absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
And I had an experience, I feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I would have watched it anyway because obviously Mike Flanagan. But if you're a Stephen King fan, it is the Stephen King book that he never wrote.
Yeah.
It is so accurate.
Yeah.
In terms of that experience, he's basically anything that's Stephen King. The only two people in the world that should ever be given the reins to adapt something like that are Mike Flanagan and Frank Darabont.
Yeah.
And I think that that both of them have a way of taking the source material, not only being faithful to it and honoring it, but making it better.
I told you a few weeks ago that if Mike Flanagan could just make a TV show every year or every half a year that's a horror show, I'll watch it.
That'd pay for my Netflix.
I really would. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, moving on. So the next part is the Tagline Games.
Yes.
Okay, so
I'm feeling good about this one.
You're feeling good about this one? So we're going to have to do something a little bit differently this week.
Why?
Because the actual tagline is very obviously Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I see.
So what I've done is I've made up some taglines.
Oh, so have I.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, you tell me.
You go first.
Yeah, no, so I will give you the taglines that I've made. So there are 3 made-up taglines and 1 real tagline.
Uh-huh.
And you tell me which one's the real one.
All right.
Okay. The first one is Drawn to be Wild.
Okay.
Eddie Valiant is about to have a very hard day.
Okay.
It's the story of a man, a woman, and a rabbit in a triangle of trouble.
Okay.
And The Wacky Tale of a Man and His Rabbit.
Wacky Tale of a Man and His Rabbit. That sounds sus. All right, here are mine. Okay, ready? Murder is such a bad rabbit.
Okay.
Rabbit, habit. Okay.
Yeah.
Cartoon action is prevalent in this feature.
Seriously,
prevalent.
Were you high when you came up with that?
No, I wasn't. Not this time. But 5 a.m. Johnny.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. 5 a.m. is a natural high.
Elizabeth is the last one. You go like this one, and the note that I've left under it. Someone's getting rogered. Under that, written just because I realized it rhymed, and I was thinking I was going to do something with it, but then I didn't. Todger, just written that underneath it.
Very good, Danning.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Roger.
Can you give me yours again? I'll try and
Okay.
I know which one it is. It's obvious.
Drawn to be. It's obvious. Are mine really that bad?
No, they're not bad. Just
Drawn to be wild.
mm-hmm.
Eddie Valiant is about to have a very hard day. It's the story of a man, a woman, and a rabbit in a triangle of trouble, and the wacky tale of a man and his rabbit.
I think it's one of the latter two. Because you gave it away because you said it's like really, really obvious. And I think
so
that it's
my fault.
I think it's the. Well, I'm still getting the point if I'm right though.
Yeah, okay.
So the man is a triangle of trouble one. I think that's the.
You are correct.
Yes.
Well done. That's 2 for 2. 2 for 2.
I might not have gotten it if you hadn't said that.
It doesn't matter.
What do I get?
You're not getting a prize anyway. I told you you're getting a cuddle, and you refused it last week.
Don't touch me.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you like to have a little chat about context before we go off and watch the movie?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Okay. I remember seeing this movie in 1988. And
subtitle old. Go on.
Old, yeah. So I was little. I'm only little. I was little, and they didn't tell me where we were going. So this is the thing about this movie. This movie is marketed hard towards kids. It is a Disney movie with wacky, funny, cute characters, etc., etc. Looney Tunes. You know, on the cover you've got Roger kissing Eddie Valiant. You know, all kinds of things like that. The taxi scene with Benny on the Blu-ray cover. And it's really dark and adult.
Yeah. This is not for kids.
It earns that PG rating. My God.
Yeah.
And the only other movie I can think of from around that time that did the same thing was Cool World. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't watch that again if you paid me. Michael Samoji, leave me alone. I'm not watching Cool World. There is a line, and you just crossed it. So yeah, so it's really quite adult. But anyway, I digress. So we went to see the movie. They surprised me, and I was really excited, bouncing up and down like Roger himself. And we went in, and they bought me a box of fruit gums. Do you remember fruit gums?
No.
So fruit gums are like these little hard jellies kind of thing. Different fruit flavors and whatever. I used to love them. So in the cinema, you used to get a box of them, and they were like, in the tube that you get in the newsagents, they were like little round sweets, and in the cinema, they were big and like shaped like the fruits. Mm-hmm. So it was really special.
Oh, I do remember these.
Yeah.
Yes, I do remember
I was
this.
sitting next to our sister, the younger of the two. Mm. And I just distinctly remember not liking a certain flavor of fruit gum, taking it out of my mouth and putting it on her leg.
Why would you do that?
I think she was wearing.
asshole.
I think she was wearing tights.
Johnny.
So that's my memory of watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit in the cinema. Look, I was much younger than her, and I'm still much younger than her. What is it, 5 years? 5 years. And I used to bully her quite a lot. I mean, both of them, actually. I remember I had this rubber spider.
Really? You were bullying people in the house that lived with you? This is news to me.
I don't know. I mean, there may be reasons for this. I don't want to delve into it in therapist
There was
corner.
nothing that I could have possibly done to you, though.
I existed. Were a victim of circumstance.
This thing can't fight back. I won't.
So I had this rubber spider, and also I had a rubber rat.
A rat,
and
yeah.
I remember
only eat
one morning.
rat.
One morning, I put the spider on her pillow. And I went back to my room, and about 5 minutes later, I heard this thud on my door, and I opened the door to see the spider on the floor. So there you go. The incident in the cinema was not isolated. Yeah.
Do you remember anything about the movie?
Yeah, sorry. I digress.
Oh, Degrau.
I digress, Grand Prix. So yeah, I remember our parents brought home a pirated copy of the movie.
You want to get sued?
Sued. Well, it was on VHS. I'm not sure. I mean, there's a statute of limitations on this kind of thing.
Sure.
So they brought home a pirated copy, and
Next time we go and visit the parents, we're going to see them being taken away in a van with a warrant.
This is a pirated copy of a film. So I remember that, and it had a horrible hiss. And I used to watch it.
I can't hear it.
Over and over again. Train spotted. Them talks in Scotch, ain't they?
Should we take a minute? Because I feel like we're just derailing each other.
It's okay. I'm all right with it. I'm all right with it, and I think the listeners are probably
I'm having a hard time breathing already.
Oh my goodness! It's the infamous Avengers incident of
context.
Of
we haven't finished
November.
Context.
Yeah, we haven't finished context. But
Sorry,
anyway,
I'll shut up.
that's
Go
my
on.
context. I had the book on tape, which I mentioned before, and I had a big hardback storybook, which had these big, beautiful pictures in it and everything. And I also had a Roger Rabbit bendy toy that you could like position its arms and ears in whatever pose you wanted. And I had a stuffed Roger Rabbit, and I think that's it. I was pretty obsessed with it, even though I was shit scared of Judge Doom. Yeah,
I don't remember being particularly scared of anything apart from Judge Doom at the end. Right.
I mean, the dip thing kind of like when he puts the shoe
in the dip.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that
it's
was
also like kind of squeaking and everything.
I guess I didn't really register how disturbing it was until I was a little older.
Right.
But
but it's really adult. The whole movie is
really
adult.
movie is very adult, and I actually
adult. Sorry.
Words.
No, like a weird emphasis. Are we British? Are we American? I don't know anymore. Do you?
I remember the movie really, really well. I remember loving it, watching it over and over again. I love the animation in it.
Yeah.
And it used to make me laugh. And it used to freak me out. And I thought that it was like one of those things that, should have scared me more than it did.
Right.
But I have never watched it and not enjoyed it. Like, there's never been a time when I'm not in the mood to watch this movie.
Right.
And there are a few movies like that for me, but I just, from a technical standpoint, I noticed something new because, I really want to talk about it once we watch the movie, but the performance that the animators give to the animated characters, like Roger Rabbit, he has moments which I'll delve into, right? And I'll point them out. But, there are moments that are very sort of specifically calculated as beats that a real living, breathing character would do.
Right. And
it gives it life. And it's something you see animators do a lot, but it's mixed with live action. So you've got the reference for what an alive thing looks like next to this. So they still manage to give it that cartoon quality, but make it feel like it's living in this world. And that is an achievement. And I enjoy it for that reason, because I always pick up on something new each time.
Right.
So yeah, that's my context.
I think to counter that, Bob Hoskins' performance is absolute genius, and I mean also Christopher Lloyd's performance, because you've got to take into account that he is a walking cartoon himself.
Yeah,
and he's just brilliant. But
he's
Bob
amazing.
Hoskins, he was cast on the strength of Mona Lisa, I think, which is completely. A completely different movie, and and we'll get into the casting of Eddie Valiant a little bit later. But he's absolutely brilliant in this movie, and I also saw like a couple of bits and pieces where you're talking about how they give the characters little flourishes, etc., but they also correct eye lines.
Yeah, with
Using very clever little
physical,
techniques.
practical props. Yeah,
like Roger standing on his tiptoes against the wall. Very, very, very cool stuff. I just think that there are. First of all, there are a couple of criticisms that I remember from the last time I watched the movie, which is when I got it on Blu-ray maybe a few years ago, was that I remember thinking that the plot is very convoluted for what it is, but that obviously harks back to the inspiration of the sort of hard-boiled detective novel, the Philip Marlowe kind of thing. So I mean, there is a precedent for that.
I found it too convoluted, and I don't know if you've done any of the delving that I did into this specific part of the movie, but I have some extra story for you that isn't in the movie.
Okay. All right. But also, I remember thinking like that. Yeah, there are some adult bits, but there's one thing that always bothered me when I was a kid, and that is the death of R.K. Maroon. The first of all, he gets like 2 or 3 bullet holes punched in his back.
Yeah.
There's no blood, but you can see the fabric like tearing up, etc. His scream, his like it always like haunted me.
Very disturbing.
And I mean, it's like it's gun violence in a movie that obviously Touchstone is supposed to be the more adult wing of Disney. But it is like marketed quite a lot towards kids, and I did watch this a lot as a kid. And there are a bunch of things in here that are really adult. That I'd like to delve into once we watch the movie.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I just have one more thing that I want to say before we watch the movie. Is I think that maybe now's a good time, just before we go into watching the movie and we play the jingle, that we sort of pay dividends to this week's sponsor.
Oh, okay.
So... What's Our Seat Number is sponsored by Icky Sticky Stuff, the inexplicable layer of sticky stuff found on the floor of every cinema across the globe. For your involuntary shuddering needs, choose Icky Sticky Stuff.
Very good.
You're welcome.
Did you come up with that by yourself?
5 o'clock in the morning. I've got a few of these.
You see, I'm just walking around with our baby, crying and going, "Oh my god, I just want to sleep." You're actually making use of the time.
No, this is in between me trying to stop him from killing himself.
Right.
Shall we watch the film?
Let's go watch the film. Right. Roll it. That was very annoying. I just want to talk about this now, because this is disturbing me. When a Blu-ray goes bad, and starts to pixelate like that, for the last half hour of the movie, the entire last act of the movie is buggered. And I looked at the Blu-ray, and there is nothing on it. No fingerprints, no scratches. The damn thing is pristine. Cannot for the life of me work out what the hell went on there. So yeah, that was very annoying. Yeah. But aside from that, I loved the movie, and that was a lot of fun.
How long is that going to be up your bum?
Until I managed to find a replacement. Oh, soda. Ooh. Soda. Until I managed to get myself a replacement copy. That's my griping over, but that's just technical shit.
Now, happy stuff.
Happy stuff. Would you like to talk about the actual movie? Yes.
I love this film. I annoyed you, I think, a little bit while we were watching it, because I kept on going, it's so good. How they do it?
Not at all. Not at all.
It's just it's from the minute that opening jazz theme comes in, you immediately get into the mood of the movie and the setting and all that, which is great. The opening cartoon it's so well animated. We can talk about just like the movie and the way that it's structured and all that, but most of what I have to say is for the Attic. It's very, very animation heavy, what I have to say about it. And, it's just, I love watching this film. I always notice something different. It's
right. I noticed quite a few things as well.
Yeah. You pointed something out right at the end there that I really liked. I have a few things. I have
Well, I mean,
things.
in the final scene there, first of all, it should be noted that this is the first and I think only movie where Disney characters and Warner Brothers characters come together. And I don't think that was cheap.
Huh, I wonder who he really was.
And and I think that there was a lot of haggling that Spielberg had to do with both Disney and Warner Brothers in order to get them to agree. So there's a lot of things going on in that final scene, and I just noticed, and I pointed out to you that the cows that are hanging around the studio at the beginning of the movie, running lines, as it were, and eating the pages of the script. Yeah. The cows are in the final sequence, and they're still holding the pages of the script, which I find quite amusing. And I also noticed the gorilla there.
Oh, is he in the final scene as well?
Yeah, the gorilla's hanging out, yeah.
You know, I noticed Bugs Bunny in that opening scene at the studio in the background.
Oh, really? Where?
It's like right after, I think, right before he's about to get on the tram. You see, just as he's sort of leaving that sort of studio area, you see Bugs Bunny walking by and then immediately walk away. Right before you see a clown character as well, which I'm not quite sure about. Interesting that they used... there's a lot of colorful characters, but there's also black and white characters, not just Betty Boop. But like, you know, black and white characters who appear in black and white. Like, it's the whole I'm drawn that way thing. Right. It's just, it's carried on throughout. There's so much, my brain is running so quickly. All the shit. Can you help me here?
Well, I wanted to point out other things that I noticed.
Okay.
So we had a conversation a while back on my second to last viewing of Last Action Hero, I think.
Yeah.
That I had suddenly, after like 20 years or 25 years or however long of watching this movie, that I got a joke and I started cracking up. And it's at the beginning where Arnold Schwarzenegger goes up to one of the cops in the opening sequence and he says, "Hey, you want to be a farmer? Here's a couple of acres," and then he kicks him in the balls. I remember I was just like, a couple of acres. I just got that. So in this movie, there's a moment where Benny the cab has extended his wheels, so that he's gone over the other cars in order to escape, and they're hurtling towards a bridge. And Benny goes, "Hey Roger, what do you call the middle of a song?" And then
I don't know.
And then he goes, "Yeah, I don't know." And then they start screaming, and then they then they go on and they land on the bridge. And then I just realized, like, the middle of a song is a bridge.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that. You were like, "It's a bridge," and I'm like, "No, I know." Like, no, sight. He had to explain it to me.
Right.
I was actually just saying to Philippa the other day, because we were talking about me not catching stuff.
Hi, Philippa.
Oh, God. Was I was saying to her that there are sometimes things that other people will pick up on that are very sort of obvious to them, but to me, like, it just went by me, and that's one of those things. It was really interesting that you picked up on that. I didn't pick up on it at all.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that I noticed. First of all, the weasel at the end, the crazy one. He doesn't just go la 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 la. He goes, "Can I kill the rabbit?"
Right.
Which, you know, there's a few things. I'm trying to remember. A few of the things that I noticed actually are to do with Doom.
Yeah, I noticed that he's got a fake chin, a fake nose, and fake ears and fake teeth. I mean, it's probably something that I subliminally noticed, but because I'm looking at it critically now, I'm like really paying attention. So yeah, I noticed that he's got like a really hooked nose, and his movement is very robotic. It's an excellent performance. Like, he's really creepy, and I can understand why young me would have been shit scared of him.
So before we get to Doom, I wanna go not in order of the movie, but I just want to go according to the notes that I've written here. But the first thing that happens in the movie is that that animated segment, and you were saying to me, it just looks so three-dimensional.
Yeah.
And that's part of Richard Williams and his team, and what they do is to create these very intricate and smooth animations that are always in perspective. He's crazy. He was crazy talented and was, incredibly good at everything to do with perspective. A lot of his masterclasses are on the subject of, obviously, of animation and timing and whatever, but he's big on that. And one of the things that you notice when it immediately transitions to mixing live action and animation is
Joel Silver, first of all.
Yeah.
You know,
Raoul?
Yeah, Raoul is played by big Hollywood producer Joel Silver, who shaved and just left a moustache. And apparently Michael Eisner. This is actually for Trivia Corner, but anyway, I'll just go for it. Michael Eisner, who was the head of Disney at the time, had a massive rivalry with Joel Silver, and he didn't recognize him, and he said to Zemeckis, who's playing the director, is really good. He said it's Joel Silver, and he said I
hate that guy.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I've got it written here in my notes. We'll come back to it.
All right,
later.
Circle back around.
But yeah, I mean, I actually think he's actually really good in that.
What I was going to say is that not only is he fantastically interacting with with Roger, but also that his coat Roger is pulling on his coat, and the coat he yanks it away from him, and that's the first and definitely not final moment in the movie where the real world is
interacting
and being affected by the cartoon characters.
Well, I just want to say there's a few his rant at the beginning, Joel Silver's rant. And he says, "My stomach can't take this. Lose the lights, get him out of there, or shut him in it, or something like that."
Yeah.
And then he says, he yells and say lunch. And then the guy in the background goes, "That's lunch." I just found that funny.
Yeah.
I wanted to just talk because I can see that this entire episode is going to end up falling into animation basement or VFX attic or whatever it's called nowadays. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about director Robert Zemeckis. He was in between Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2, and they were going to start shooting Back to the Future 2 and Back to the Future 3 back to back. And he has a mode of manic.
Yeah.
Basically, he's just the movie moves at a relentless pace, and there's no time to breathe, and it's wall to wall music, and it's it's crazy. Back to the Future 2 is definitely that, and I can see a lot of parallels between this movie and Back to the Future 2.
Yeah, you mentioned with the newspapers as well, though that was Back to the Future 1.
Oh, it was Back to the Future 1, yeah. But it's a nice, I think maybe a director's trademark. I'll try and think of what else, any other ways that he's done that. But sort of gliding.
Look out for it in Pinocchio.
But sort of gliding the camera over newspaper clippings and objects and sort of things that are in a character's house to sort of exposit, as it were. Exposit, just to a better way of giving exposition to the viewer, as opposed to talking about it. It's all visual. Yeah. And there's another instance of that in this movie with Eddie Valiant's desk, and it goes around the desk. And then you see all of the backstory of Eddie and his brother and Dolores, et cetera, and the newspaper clippings, and then it circles back around. And it's morning already, and I just think that's just brilliant, genius, camera move.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Robert Zemeckis wrote 1941 for Spielberg, which has a similar kind of cartooniness,
right?
And I think that this comes at a peak in his career, that he'd just done Romancing the Stone and Back to the Future, and he was about to do Back to the Future 2. And Roger Rabbit comes at this time where he's only made really a couple of successful movies, and he was not quite blacklisted, but he'd made enough flops like I Want to Hold Your Hand and Used Cars, and written 1941 for Spielberg that Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale were not entirely in demand, and Back to the Future was very, very difficult to get made. So if you think about, he's made 2 successful movies by this point, and then you're coming into a movie like this, which is incredibly ambitious, and it's just it's really quite an achievement that on his at this point in his career that he was able to make something that was not only revolutionary in terms of animation, in terms of mixing animation and live action, but also in terms of the story and the world building, and the script is so sharp. And the interaction between the toon world and the live action world is every single thing is justified and warranted and well thought out, and so we're talking about these little Easter eggs and everything. But it's all of these tiny little minute details that make up this incredibly rich world that they've created. It's one of the reasons why I love movies like Demolition Man and things like that really take the time to create a living, breathing world that nowadays you think of Roger Rabbit, you kind of take it as a given that there are toons and et cetera, but somebody in 1987 or whatever had to come up with that. And Gary Wolfe
rules of this world.
Yeah, Gary Wolfe, the writer of the novel that this is based on, but also it's for the movie they had to reinvent that obviously and create sort of these real world scenarios for these animated characters. And I just think it's genius. I just think it's very well done.
I agree with you. I think that it's very clear that they put so much detail into just the performances as well. Like, there's the way that Dolores says to, what's his name? Meatball. What's his name?
Emilio?
Yeah.
Emilio?
No, not Emilio. Whatever, the guy he says, "Get this straight, meatball," right? So she says, like, he goes, "What's his problem?" And she says, Toon killed his brother, dropped a piano on his head. And she looks, like, really, really sad. And, like, they never say at any point in the movie how long Dolores and Eddie have been together. Are they married? Are they dating? Like, what is their relationship? But it's through the acting and the little pieces that they throw, they sprinkle throughout the movie that kind of indicates what their relationship is and where it's at and how long it's been there.
Right.
And if
Angelo,
thank you. Emilio.
Well, it's close.
What's the matter, Emilio? I'm afraid I'll make a stink.
Right, there you go. That's probably where that came from, yeah.
So there's like that moment where, as you've just talked about with the newspaper clippings, and also lingers on a picture of Eddie and Dolores and Teddy, his brother, at the on the doorstep of their PI offices. And they all look very happy. So it looks like
two floozies and two flatfoots and a floozy open a business. Yeah.
And so you've got like this very...
By the way, I just want to say I love that, like all of that 40s speak. And there's a lot of that
Holy
going on.
Smoke.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on in Rocketeer as well. Like your buddy's being fitted for a pine overcoat.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's just like such sharp writing. The dialogue is just so rich, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, when he arrives in Venice and he's chatting to Alison Dooley's character Elsa, and they just have these sort of one-liners, these back and forth thing of like but maybe I won't be here in the morning, whatever. Like it's this whole flirting thing, and it's just it's very 40s tinge. It's kind of like watching Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn sparring, and this when they do 40s set movies right, you have that kind of that wonderfully rich dialogue that kind of makes you feel like you're watching something like Casablanca.
But it's also in how they deliver the lines, because
of course,
as we've seen with The Phantom, some of those lines fall a little bit flat.
Yeah. Also, I would say that, and I'm gonna hurt some people here, so I apologize in advance. But The Mummy is an amazing film. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it, but it doesn't capture that era. The script is written by Stephen Sommers himself, and it's not as sharp as some of the other sort of wartime set movies that I'm thinking about when I'm talking about sharp scripts. But
digression. My point is that there's a lot of rich sort of that moment where she looks very sad. It's like she knows. She knew Teddy. She was close to him. It makes her sad too, not just for Eddie, but for herself. They've been together for a while. I think there's even a date on the picture frame. So if you
37.
37.
So that would
movies
be
in-
10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been together for a while.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice rings on the fingers, but they've just been together for a long time. So it's like, it's those little things that they don't
Have they been
force feed
together
you.
or have they been on and off? Because it seems like they're kind of reconciling throughout the movie.
I don't
until
know if
they
they're
get to the-
reconciling. I think that they're, he's
drunk and
fallen
he's
into
alone.
drinking problems, and
Yeah.
she's lending him money, and she needs him to pay it back, and she needs him
He's
to
also
step
closed
up.
himself
and-
off emotionally.
Yeah. I don't know that they've been on and off. I think that they're just going through a very, very rough patch.
Well, they're not together because they're not living together.
That's true.
Yeah.
But she's his love interest. She is his, or he's her love interest.
Yeah, no, but
Huh?
I feel like you get to the sequence in the movie theater and they're kind of like coming back together after a long time of not being together. That's what
Yeah.
it feels to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's basically what I'm saying is it's very richly drawn. Even though you're kind of given scant information about it, it's all suggested. Which is I guess the best way to get things across like this. It's showing, not telling.
I think that Bob Hoskins is fantastic. Not just in his acting, which is incredible, and I've written that here, but right next to it, he keeps on falling down.
Yeah, it looks to me like he did a good percentage of his own stunts.
Yeah.
I can see a stuntman during the taxi scene. In the car chase, which I can understand because you probably got somebody driving a contraption that's not entirely a vehicle in order
safe.
to replace it with an animated taxi at the end of it. But he's throwing himself around. He's getting thrown around. He's bumping into things. He's got things falling on his head.
Roger pulls him across the room to the window, and it's like it's this wonderful idea that toons don't obey the rules of physics as we do.
Right.
But if we were dragged along by a toon, like they've asked themselves that question, like if you were handcuffed to a toon and they zipped across a room, you would have to obey the laws of physics as you normally do.
Right.
And so he's like, bumping into things, and he can't contort his body to go over objects, and he just like slams into the wall. He's like dragged behind in delay. Like it's so well done. But then you'll notice as he gets further along in the movie, he starts having toon qualities.
Yeah, he gets very toon-like. Yeah,
And not just in Toontown, also afterwards, like in the merry-go-round broke down section, where he's dropping cannonballs on his head, and he's flipping over, and he goes up on a pogo stick, and then he gets electrocuted. Like there's a lot of toon stuff going on there, and it's a progression of his character that's like he goes through a real arc in the movie, and I think that a lot of them do, but it's just really cool that they really didn't spoon feed a single thing.
No, but I feel like they didn't sacrifice the story just for the spectacle.
Yeah.
Because it would probably be very easy to do. I mean, I watched Space Jam with my son not long ago, and I got that feeling that it's very scant. But hey, you've got toons interacting with human beings, so
Feels like the story came first here.
yeah, which is what makes it popular, which is what makes it endure, I think.
Absolutely. So you wanted to go to Trivia Corner?
Yes, we're going to go to Trivia Corner now, and then we're going to take a visit to VFX Attics. So,
Okay.
Trivia Corner.
Trivia Corner.
Do you want to know how much this movie cost?
Yes.
This
What if
had
I'd have said no?
an estimated production budget of 70 million, and apparently this was the most expensive film produced in the 1980s, and has the longest on-screen credits for a film.
Wow.
It's
Nothing by today's standards.
mind-boggling that movie was made in 1988.
Mm.
Incredible. Like, really. Okay. Bob Hoskins said that for 2 weeks after seeing the movie, his young son wouldn't talk to him. When finally asked why, his son said he couldn't believe his father would work with cartoon characters such as Bugs Bunny and let him meet them.
So cute.
During filming, Charles Fleischer, who played Roger Rabbit, delivered Roger Rabbit's lines off-camera in full Roger costume, including rabbit ears, yellow gloves, and orange coveralls.
Mm-hmm.
During breaks,
I've seen the footage. It's really
I've
quite
seen
disturbing.
the footage as well. I remember seeing it when I was a kid, and I didn't understand why. During breaks when he was in costume, other staff at the studios would see him and make comments about the poor caliber of the effects in the Rabbit movie.
More fool they. Finish yourself off.
Indeed. Okay, there were apparently going to be 7 weasels. They cut that down, but they were trying to parody the 7 dwarfs.
Okay.
The infamous crotch shot. Do you know about this?
What crotch shot?
So
Crotch shot.
when Eddie and Jessica are thrown from Benny the cab when he gets dipped.
Yeah.
So apparently there's a myth that you can see Jessica Rabbit's crotch. That one of the animators painted that in there as a sort of subliminal frame. So it says here, what I have written down here. In the original VHS release, when Eddie and Jessica are thrown out of the car, you can see for a few short frames that Jessica was not wearing any underwear. There was nothing to see but flesh-toned paint, but there was a fair amount of talk about it. See, this is the reason why I say this was marketed towards kids, but there's a lot of like adult stuff going on.
You know, just jumping off that, there's a lot of things in Disney movies that people always say, like, you know, they're all
some
myths.
of that has been debunked.
Yeah, it's bollocks, but there's a lot of obsession with animators putting in boners and stuff,
the priest's boner in the end of The Little Mermaid is actually his foot.
Yeah.
But there you go. So in later versions, this was switched to white paint, thereby restoring her underwear. After this, it was changed again with a series of frames replaced with new ones to completely eliminate this. I do not believe that is a thing.
Okay.
There were over 40 drafts of the script, including drafts that had either Jessica Rabbit or Baby Herman as the villain.
Oh. Well, I mean, I can buy the Jessica Rabbit one.
Oh, I noticed this when I watched it this time round.
What?
When Valiant first enters his office, he puts his hat on a black bird statue, in obvious reference to the book and movie The Maltese Falcon.
Oh.
So I actually...
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Okay, so this is the other thing I wanted to say about Robert Zemeckis, was that they were obviously prepping Back to the Future 2 while they were shooting this, and the tunnel that leads to Toontown is the same tunnel that Marty is hoverboarding away from Biff in
right
at the end of Back to the Future
Brilliant.
2. It's a tunnel that's apparently used a lot in LA for
that's why
shoots.
You were pedaling your foot on the floor.
Yes,
I see. Okay.
There you go. Oh, this is another thing. Bob Hoskins had to do a lot of his acting in front of a green screen, only visualizing the cartoon characters
Wasn't
that
it a
were
blue
added
screen?
later. It says here green screen, but yeah, it was a blue screen. In a 1988 interview for Danish television, he said, "I had to learn to hallucinate to do it. After doing it for 6 months for 16 hours a day, I lost control of it and sort of had weasels and rabbits popping out of the wall at me."
What?
Hoskins didn't take another job for a year. He had to, because he had to learn how to hallucinate. He was hallucinating for a long time after the movie wrapped.
No, I understood what you were saying. Just like, whatever.
Okay, so this is what Michael Eisner said about Joel Silver's cameo.
Go on.
Silver shaved off his beard, paid his own expenses, and kept his name out of all initial cast sheets. When Eisner was told after the movie was complete who was playing the director, he reportedly shrugged and said he was pretty good.
Okay, no, I mean...
Yes.
At least he could say it, even begrudgingly, he could say it.
Right.
Bloody hell! How many pages you got there?
I got a few. There's a lot to get through, but some of these I'm gonna sort of skip over because I don't want to step on VFX Attics.
Sorry, do you want to do the jingle?
No, you're good. You're good. So
Bloody right.
The photograph that Eddie takes of Marvin Acme, and this is something that I've been wondering about for a long time. I even noticed it as a kid. Jessica looks different.
Yeah,
in those photographs.
She does.
And apparently, these photographs feature an earlier design of Jessica than the one that is used in the final character animation. The one shot that was redone to incorporate the new Jessica design was the insert shot of the picture after it is first developed. And we mentioned this in the pre-bit. Ideas for a sequel were tossed around, but none materialized for many years. J.J. Abrams was working on a story in 1989 at the behest of producer Steven Spielberg, but his treatment was abandoned and Spielberg eventually lost interest in the project. One story idea that came close to being produced in the late 1990s was Who Discovered Roger Rabbit, which would have been in the 1950s style of filmmaking. Over the years, Zemeckis repeatedly stated that he had a script that was more a continuation than a sequel, but the rights resided with Disney, who were not interested in making it since there was no princess in it, and they were uncomfortable with the risque character of Jessica Rabbit. A sequel, Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2, was finally announced in the late 2010s. I don't know if that's ever going to materialize, actually.
How do you do it without Richard Williams? Like, I mean,
how do you do it without Bob Hoskins?
Well, how do you do it without Bob? Well, you know what? Yeah, it makes a very. There are some very good animators who could do this, but like, it was his animation style. Like, it was his
right that gave it the uniqueness.
Or his direction, his lead animatoriness, directionist.
Right. Okay, this is quite a dark one.
Okay.
In one of the early versions of the script, Judge Doom was revealed to be the one who killed Bambi's mother.
What? Oh my.
That's fucked up.
That is fucked up.
Okay, too soon. All right, it's always going to be too soon. Okay, so I want to move on to a new segment, which I like to call Crazy Casting. With K's. Crazy spelt with a K and a double E at the end, and casting just with a K. I'm an off-the-wall man. I just want to watch the world burn. That's why I spelt it like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Rebel you.
I'm a rebel. So basically in this section, I'm going to describe an actor who was originally cast in a role in this movie. We're only going to do 2 of these.
Okay.
Because I only had time to do 2.
Okay.
And you have to guess who the actor is.
All right.
Okay. This actor, who had worked for both Spielberg before and for Zemeckis in a future film, was up for the role of Eddie, another hard-boiled detective character on his resume, but was deemed too expensive. Who am I?
I have to guess who it is?
Mm-hmm.
Give it to me again. I'm gonna pay more attention to all the details now. Go on.
Okay. This actor who had worked for both Spielberg before
and
Zemeckis in a future film after Roger Rabbit.
After Roger Rabbit, okay.
Okay, which you haven't seen. Was up for the role of Eddie, another hard-boiled detective character on his resume, which means he's played a hard-boiled detective character before.
I'm never going to fucking get this.
But he was deemed too expensive. I'm going to give you a clue now.
Go on.
This is probably going to make you get it.
Go.
He shares a role with Alec Baldwin, Chris Pine, and John Krasinski.
Shares a role with Alec Baldwin, Chris Pine, and
John Krasinski. Mm-hmm.
All of these... hang on. Jack Ryan. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
It's Jack Ryan. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have to figure out all the actors that did Jack Ryan. So there's, right?
No, those are the actors that did Jack Ryan, and
Okay.
the one that I haven't said is the one who this is.
Harrison Ford.
There you go. How different would this movie have been with Harrison Ford playing Eddie Valiant? Because Eddie Valiant is a very non.
Wait. Do I get a ding 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 for getting it?
You did get a ding ding ding. Didn't you hear it?
No, sorry.
All right, I'll do it again.
Sorry.
There you go. So it's just interesting because he's not your conventional type of hero, Eddie Valiant, as played by Bob Hoskins.
But he's also not how you would imagine him to look. Like, Harrison Ford is, very sort of square jaw.
Right, exactly. So the other hard-boiled detective character is Deckard in Blade Runner. Worked for Spielberg, that's obvious.
Yeah. And
Zemeckis in What Lies Beneath.
That's a Zemeckis movie?
Oh, yes, it is.
I didn't know that. I wouldn't have gotten it from
you have
that.
to watch
now I have to watch it. Oh, do you want to do a podcast on that movie? You've never mentioned it before.
Really? So that's another thing that What Lies Beneath is very restrained and actually quite slow in places. It's a slow burn and it takes its time to build it up. And if you watch that back to back with this, you wouldn't know it's the same director. Anyway, this British actor was up for the role of Judge Doom, but his performance was deemed too frightening by producer Steven Spielberg.
This British actor. Okay, I'm focusing now on the details.
Okay.
Let's go.
His previous credits include now I've rephrased these to make them sound a little bit obscure, but it's going to be fairly obvious when you get it. His previous credits include a pillaging monarch, a crowing thief, and a psychotic children murdering circus performer.
Tim Curry.
There you go. Pillaging monarch.
Tim Curry as the judge.
Yeah.
Oh, man, could you imagine him with red eyes? That would have freaked me fuck out.
Listen, okay, because Christopher Lloyd is shit scary in this movie. If Steven Spielberg thought that Tim Curry was too scary.
Yeah.
And think about the nightmare fuel that Spielberg has peddled all over the 80s and
Must have
all
been
over
one
our
hell of a
childhoods.
scary
My
performance.
God. So, Pillaging Monarch, Pirate King,
Didn't get that.
right? Crowing Thief, Rooster from Annie.
Got that one.
And Psychotic Children Murdering Circus.
So I got the
Performer,
rooster
obviously
thing
Pennywise the
after.
Clown. Yeah.
I didn't get pillaging. That's a good one. I like this. You should do this more.
I'm going to.
Okay.
Okay, so here's another one. I'm going to make this up on the spot. Okay? Another British actor up for the role of Judge Doom.
Okay.
Let me think. He has played a famous blood-sucking creature.
Okay.
And
I already got it from that, but go on, keep going.
okay, so who?
Christopher Lee.
There you go.
Hey.
I was gonna try and like come up with a gilded weapon.
Yeah,
or something.
I was wondering,
Yeah.
like, are you trying to figure out another way of saying golden gun?
Right. But that would have been interesting as well.
Yeah.
I mean, these are
I'm more
pedigree.
interested in
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry.
But
I'm
like,
sad.
I mean, pedigree up for these roles. Like,
Yeah.
this was obviously like there must have been a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you know that they did the animation test, and then that
Yeah.
must have gotten the studio going, oh, okay, we got to throw shit at
right.
this.
On the special edition DVD, Zemeckis recounts that he stated in a newspaper interview that this American actor was his and executive producer Steven Spielberg's original choice for the role of Eddie Valiant, but neither could get in contact with him at the time.
Okay.
He's a Saturday Night Live alum from the 80s.
Okay.
He's been in Ethereal Pest Control.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Who is it that nobody can get a hold of ever?
Oh, Bill Murray.
Bill Murray in the role of Valiant.
No, doesn't.
Okay.
No.
Dan Aykroyd was also considered for the role of Valiant.
Okay.
Just read these off because it's just going to take ages. There's lots of them. Rowan Atkinson was considered for the role of Eddie Valiant.
Was he?
Arnold Schwarzenegger was considered for the role of Judge Doom.
Ugh.
Now, I have to wonder, these start to get a bit ridiculous, and I'm wondering how true they must be.
Okay.
John Voight, considered for the role of Judge Doom. Okay, and now there's a huge list here of a bunch of people considered for the role of Eddie Valiant. Robert De Niro, John Travolta, Sylvester Stallone, Eddie Murphy. Did they just contact everybody? Kurt Russell, Michael Biehn, Dudley Moore. Dudley Moore? Tom Hanks, Danny DeVito, Chevy Chase, Ed
You're just
Harris,
reading off actors' names.
Jack Nicholson, Gene Hackman, Joe Pesci. None of these people are in this movie. Yeah, a lot of people.
Wow.
Final bit of trivia before I hang up my my trivia hat. Now, this may be common knowledge, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. Amy Irving, Steven Spielberg's ex-wife, was the singing voice of Jessica Rabbit.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the speaking voice of Jessica Rabbit is, of course, Kathleen Turner. Mr. Valiant, can't you see
Yes,
how
but
much I need you?
She sounds like that now. She didn't
Right.
sound like that then.
Okay, and that's Trivia Corner.
No, wait a minute. We've still got some stuff.
Stuff?
Yeah.
What stuff?
So, I have some...
You've got your own Trivia Corner?
I don't have my own Trivia Corner. I have Trivia Corner supplements. Do you want me to add it into VFX Attic?
You mean you have a corner of Trivia Corner?
Do you want me to make up my own new space for size tidbits?
Okay. And so I will just I will close up Trivia Corner,
sorry, go on.
and now we'll move on to so that's Trivia Corner. Trivia Corner. And now you said you have a thing.
Yes, bits of tid, size tidbits.
Well done. Okay.
Right. So you said to me during the movie that, you know, we get like those little tiny little connections of what, you know, who Judge Doom is, or the connections between him and this scheme and Teddy's brother. What did you say about the Kabloons or something?
Somalians. What is that? Hold on, I'm just going to Google that.
No, it's a made-up currency from Toontown.
It's a made-up currency.
Or maybe it's not. No, making a faux pas.
I have no idea. Maybe,
A Forks Pass.
A Forks Pass. Grand Prix. So Michael Schumacher coming up the rear. So random words. So basically. Yeah, so there's a mention at the beginning, the detective that brings Eddie Valiant to the Acme factory after the murder of Marvin Acme. So he mentions that Judge Doom spread a bunch of simoleons around Toontown and bought the election.
Yeah.
That's how he was elected, which is kind of dark as well, because they elected the official that's going to wipe them out.
Yeah.
It's as if Hitler was planning to wipe out the German
Really
people.
interesting that you say that, Jonathan.
Okay.
I'm gonna blow some stuff off your mind.
Un momento.
Go on.
Because the connection that I made was that when Eddie tells the story about the Toon that killed his brother, he talks about the fact that that they were going into the first bank of Toontown, and a Toon was stealing zillion Somalians or Somalians. So I made the connection that, like, okay, well, they're dropping little hints there, and if you're eagle-eyed and eagle-eared, you're going to get it. But I don't know. I never really noticed that until today.
So, some fun tidbits for you, okay?
Yes.
So, Judge Doom never blinks throughout the movie. You will not see a single shot where he blinks his eyes.
Yeah.
Right?
I read about that, yeah.
His chin and his nose extensions, we mentioned. His glasses flash white constantly, which is kind of very... Cartoony. And his cloak is always blowing, even when there's no source of wind, in order to make him seem otherworldly.
Yeah, I noticed that this time around, yeah.
In my sort of homework prep for this podcast, I went very deep, and I actually found his true identity.
Oh.
And I have...
Because I said to you, isn't it weird that we never actually see him unmasked?
You said it to me while we were watching it.
While we were watching the movie,
yeah. And that's why I said to you, like, does that bother you? Like, because if you would have said to me, I like not knowing, I wouldn't tell you this now.
I like that we do this for each other. It's like little gifts.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you some stuff. Oh. So hit. Do you want my stuff?
Don't be weird.
Okay. I went searching. There's a lot of supplementary material. You mentioned the novelization of the movie. Or the book, or whatever. Oh no, you mentioned a book that came before that this is based off of, and then we had a book that had a tape.
Yeah, we had something based off the book on tape and a hardback book, but neither of those were as in depth as a novelization would be. I think there is a novelization though somewhere.
There's also a sequel spin-off comic book, which is, as far as I have been able to uncover, I think so. As far as I've been able to uncover, it is canon.
I'm getting it.
And I would like to reveal the true name of Judge Doom to you. His name is Baron von Rotten.
Huh.
And I'd like to show you a picture of him. Maybe we can put it up on Facebook so people who are interested can see it. But this is what he looks like. This is his true form.
Huh. And it's actually quite close to how he looks.
How he looks, right? So he actually... And why did I say... that it was interesting that you mentioned Hitler. So if you just give me a second, I just want to bring up the wiki here. You can find this. It's called Scrooge McDuck Wikia. But dating back to 1921 and the silent cartoon era, the Toon known as Baron von Rotten became famous by perfecting disguises and Toon-based shape-shifting to portray hundreds of very different screen villains, earning him the nickname of the Toon with 1,000 faces. The extremely successful Baron became a millionaire and made good with his name by building himself a castle for a villa. Portraying Adolf Hitler caricatures in wartime propaganda cartoons, the Baron was caught in an explosion while filming a film called Mother Goose Step. After a weeks-long convalescence, Baron von Rotten, whose eyes now inexplicably glowed red, had gone murderously insane, but retaining enough calculating intelligence to temporarily keep this a secret. Von Rotten's madness soon found something to latch onto sometime in 1946 or 1947. He heard of plans for the building of freeways, which Toontown blocked the way for. The then brand new idea of freeways seemed inexplicably fascinating to the deranged Toon, who hatched a crazy scheme to destroy Toontown, killing all its inhabitants in the process. This involved creating himself a non-Toon alias, Judge Doom, developing a way to destroy Toons, the Dip, and murdering human detective Teddy Valiant to cover his tracks, which I think is really, really cool that you just mentioned that, he was getting the money to become the, thing of Toontown. And I'm trying to figure out what the name of this comic book is called, but it seems to be called The Resurrection of Judge Doom, or The Resurrection of Doom. Not sure.
Very interesting.
But there's more, which is really interesting, because if I sort of bring up all of his aliases, he has a moustache-twirling anthropomorphic rat villain, the Phantom of the Opera, the evil sawmill operator, and these are all things that you can see in the comic. The Abominable Snowman, an Adolf Hitler caricature, a potion-brewing wicked witch, and a red-eyed shadow man, the form he took to rob the Toontown Bank and kill Teddy Valiant after he went mad. And there is a picture in the comic book of him in that shadow form with his red eyes, which I will show you. Unfortunately, not the people listening. Well,
if anybody's interested, do write us on the group and we'll post the pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't actually find it, but I did find it on Google, the other day. I just thought this was so cool because I've never seen anything about Judge Doom.
Never thought about it before,
in any of the media, anywhere really. So yeah, that's really cool. The shot that I'm talking about in the comic, just to describe it to people, is basically from a POV of Eddie. It's like over his shoulder. It's not POV. It's over the shoulder, and he's looking up. There's a piano that's sort of like on the floor, so obviously it's just landed on his brother, and you see this black shape, humanoid shape with the hair tuft and the red eyes leaning over the banister. And I think that's just incredibly interesting.
It's so dark.
Yeah, it's really, really dark. Now I don't think that they could have really put it in all of the.
It's just a little bit too much and less. I mean, look. I mean, you said to me that there's not a single frame wasted in this movie. I'm not sure if that's because they had to animate so much within it. But even in the live action stuff, it's very, very tight. It's I think it's an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's the perfect length.
I agree.
I think that they could have put in a flashback, but I think it's much more powerful seeing it through Eddie's eyes. You know, when he's going through those the extra photos that are developed with the Jessica and Acme photos, and you see him, like, the joy on his face when he sees that holiday that they all took together.
Yeah.
And then when he gets to Teddy's pictures, and you see that sorrow. Yeah. You know, and his lip starts trembling, and you know his eyes start to fill up. It says it all. I think Zemeckis is really, really did a fantastic job of giving us just enough exposition.
Yeah. And I'd like to give you one more theory that's never proven but is speculated about. I couldn't find anything confirming this. But do you remember when R.K. Maroon is shot in the back?
Yes.
And I said, pay attention to the pistol packing possum poster.
Yes, yeah.
That possum is holding a gun but has red eyes and could be his true form.
Oh.
And the fact that the gun is reflected off the gun in the poster is... So if you look for pistol packing possum on Google, you'll get like a clearer image. And some people are like fighting on the internet that his eyes are brown, and they are red, in my opinion. And I think that's really cool. But I don't think it's his true form. I think it's one of his forms. I think the true form is what I showed you just a minute ago. So that was it. That's the end of my tidbits. But I just thought
they do look brown.
But that's one of the theories online. Do with it what you will. But I love that there's like this extra stuff. So that is the end of the tidbits. Size tidbits.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And now a word from another one of our sponsors. My God, this podcast is popular.
Are you surprised? Surprised? We are supported by Toon Screams. Feeling dippy? Tired of having to grab your nearest toon and then look everywhere for a vat of dip? Feeling well rested from a good night's sleep because the awful shrieks of toons aren't ringing in your ears? Look no further, friends. Just pick up a can of Toon Screams. Real Toon Screams kept in a can. Now that's what I call a candid advertisement. Buy one can of Toon Screams with a coupon code Holy Smokes, he's a toon, and get a free set of burning red eyes, guaranteed to burn a hole in your retinas and assure you never get bothered by pesky sleep again. 5 a.m.
5 a.m. looks good on you. Very good. Okay.
I got one more.
You got one
We'll
more?
do it later
Okay, we'll
on.
do it later. Okay. Okay. One more thing that connects Zemeckis movies together of this time period.
Yeah.
Alan Silvestri. There's that scene where Eddie takes the red car at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And there's these beautiful strings that sort of segue into those gorgeous saxophones.
Yeah.
And I said to you, Alan Silvestri.
Yeah.
It's like fucking chocolate in my ears.
You did say that.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think that I don't really have very much to say about this. I just think the man's a genius, and I'm probably going to gush all over a little bit more before this podcast is over. But I think he's brilliant.
Yeah, the music is really something.
He is
like
up there.
chocolate.
It's like chocolate in my ears. Alan Silvestri, Jerry Goldsmith, James Horner, John Williams. Just there's a bunch of these composers who I rate, John Barry as well, who I rate extremely highly, and I can listen to their music independent of the movie and just close my eyes and get transported. And it's just not something you see very often today in terms of original scores. So hats off.
Completely agree with you.
Yeah. There you go. Sorry, go on. You wanted to take a trip to the attic, didn't you?
Oh, yes.
Did you fix the staircase? Did you fix the handrail?
Well, I mean, it keeps breaking. It's not my fault.
For the love of
It's like,
God.
listen,
If we're
it's
gonna
not-
keep
the
going
problem
up
isn't
there-
the staircase and it's not the handrail.
What is it?
It's the ghouls.
It's the ghouls.
Yeah, they keep
Okay.
on greasing the.
And what about the asbestos?
That's been dealt with.
It's been dealt with now?
Yeah, now we've
'cause
just
last
got
week it hadn't
cancer
been
in the
dealt with.
walls.
You got cancer in the walls. Fantastic. Okay, so let's take a trip up to VFX Attic.
Yeah,
if
you're
you
going to
please, the
catch
jingle.
gonorrhea. Watch your step.
Okay.
Join me in the VFX Attic. Where else can you see VFX in an attic other than VFX Attic?
There you go. Very good. Please.
Johnny's requested that every time that I do this, the attic gets worse and worse and
I
worse.
don't know how much further you can go with that.
Oh,
to be
we'll
honest.
find
You
out.
You kind of painted yourself into a corner.
I really haven't. Have you never met me before? I really haven't. I will find a way.
All right.
Okay, so there's a lot of things to talk about
I
here,
think
but
it's
you
the
know
bulk
what? It's
of the
not
podcast.
really...
This is going to end up being very long.
So I'm gonna try and keep it brief, right? Because I know that it can get a little bit heavy, and people don't know what I'm talking about. So, what I wanted to say is that I'm gonna split this into two things because the whole movie is basically one long VFX shot, right?
Right.
And so I'm going to kind of split this between the animator, the animation, and the way that they have practically enhanced each shot to make the VFX work, and some of the tech that goes behind it. So while we're in the attic, and don't sit there. Don't sit there. I just told you there's cancer in the walls. Move away from the wall. Move towards me.
Why is there nowhere to sit?
I'm sorry. Is it not good enough for you? I've provided you with drinks. There's drinks. There's look, the ghouls are smiling at you. Look, they're waving. They're waving. Look, the shadow creatures. Terrifying. Exactly. Anyway, so
Carl. That's
so
one we need to do at some point, by the way.
What?
Ghost.
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so there are two names that I want to bring up. Okay. The first name I've already brought up is Richard Williams, who is, the lead animator, and basically the director of the animation. And he was the one who basically said to, Robert Zemeckis, no, we don't need to lock down the camera, because every single movie before then where they had animated characters, you'll notice in Mary Poppins and Bedknobs and Broomsticks, the camera shots with animated characters are all locked down.
Right.
And, Zemeckis was saying, okay, so we're going to lock down all the shots. And, Richard Williams was like, why? You can move the camera. We're going to draw them in perspective. It's harder. It's more expensive, but that's our job. We can do that. Right. And they did an animation test where they sort of showed off, the ability to do it. And they were like, oh, wow, this is incredible. And you can find it on YouTube. It's still there. But the other
You can
person
also
that
see it in the behind-the-scenes documentary, Behind the Ears.
yeah, you should. If you're interested in the movie and feel that we haven't got into it enough, you can definitely watch that. The other person I wanted to mention is Ed Jones, who worked for ILM and operated their optical photography printers, and he was the supervisor. Optical photography is basically what we know now as compositing, right? Where we take all of the different layers of our visual effect and we composite them one on top of the other until we get our final frame.
And how many passes did they have to do on these effect shots?
So it was a little bit of a different process. They would take the different layer. They would take the original plate of film that was filmed, and then they'd have the animation plates, and there was shading plates. And I will tell you exactly what the different plates were. But there's 30. The picture of the shot that I have here, I'm just going to show you the picture of it, is a shot of Eddie when he's got Roger Rabbit in the water of his sink.
Right.
And the different shots that he's doing a background pass, Roger's front pass. There's something called a backlight, which is his rim light behind him. There's all these different mats which are basically masks. Right. So when Eddie is interacting with him or his hand goes in front of him, they needed to erase bits of it so that it would sort of go around his hand and you'd see his hand and not just see the animation. There's different shadow passes, different lighting passes, and then there's a final composite, which is the final output. Right. Now, today we would just do this digitally, and it would be really not easy, but it would be a lot easier. Imagine if you screwed up one of these shots, you're done, right? You've screwed up the film. So they had, I think, something like 1,000 shots. Wait, yeah, like 1,000 shots that they had to do. And I just wanted to bring that up because I think, we could definitely get stuck in on the animation and stuff, but there was, beyond just the animation, there was taking those animation frames and compositing on top of the movie. And the fact that 95% of those shots don't jank, right, is really, really impressive. So a little bit about Richard Williams that I just wanted to give a little bit of background. My background with Richard Williams is that I own his book, The Animator's Toolkit, or The Animator's Survival Kit. My bad. Right. I own it. I know what it's called. And he basically started doing these master classes, and I'll get into why he took that on. But, he made a book out of it, which is extremely helpful and useful. And it goes into all of the concepts of animation and his time working with Art Babbitt in Disney. Or, no, not at Disney. He came to work for him on The Thief and the Cobbler. Right. Just
the Thief and the Cobbler is a story in and of itself.
Yeah, so I'm going to go into that a little bit. But basically, I have this book, and every single time that I do a 3D animation shot, I'm reading bits from that book. And wow. It's like a Bible. It's amazing. There are lots of books that you can read on this subject, but he's such a hero. It's amazing. So he was a renowned perfectionist. He had unmatched abilities with perspective at the time that allowed him to pioneer the different animation shots for this movie. And he had a ridiculously high sort of like attention to detail, which was, just incredible. He didn't cut corners. He didn't, do what a lot of other animators did, which is, like animating on 3s and 4s and 5s, which is, having more space between the frames. He would actually draw 12 frames per second, which is, and sometimes on 1s, which is 25. And basically what that means is, when you say on 2s, it's like frame and then a space and then frame and then a space. So basically you're only drawing 12 frames.
Which is what I think, which is what gives it that richness of movement.
Yeah, so he never used to skimp on the animation. He was always like, do the work, right? But it was also tragically kind of his downfall in this whole story of The Thief and the Cobbler, because
you want to explain what that is?
So it's his magnum opus. It's a movie that is, if you've ever seen any footage of it, it's beautifully made, gorgeous animation. So I'm getting like emotional about it. What's wrong with me? And he's, you know, he had to use a lot of different freelance jobs. Like he was bootstrapping it. From you know, like different jobs. Like he did the opening animation sequences in the Pink Panther Returns, and lots of different commercials. You can find them on the Thief Archive, which is a YouTube channel. You can find all of these animations if you're interested. And you know, he opened up his own studio. And when did he start The Thief and the Cobbler? I've got it written down here somewhere. 1968. Right, think about that.
Wow.
He started the project in 1968, and he was self-funding that thing until he did Roger Rabbit, where he had funding, and also Warner Brothers were interested in him, and they were like, yeah, and they funded him. And 24 years he's making this movie, and he had to stop because he couldn't do it. He was too much of a perfectionist, and he was trying to do all these things that weren't really necessary. Now the movie came out. It was called Arabian Night, with a K, Night, and it's obviously been changed, and some shots, you know, were altered and you know, supplemented. It's a bit of a shame. And so it's a very sad story that he had to pack up his studio and he had to move back to Canada with his wife and kids. You know, he had to kind of, you know, he sort of says in one of his quotes, if the clients won't give us the time, you have to drop the quality of your work. You just drop it and you drop it again. But he never did. He never dropped it. He never tried to drop the quality because he couldn't. He was too close to it. So yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that and his whole story. And but the upside of the fact that he had to close his studio, he started teaching animation in these classes, which then became the basis of the animator's survival kit. Which has helped animators across the world, and it's really quite incredible. And there are videos on YouTube of him talking about, you know, there are even, it's like things that appear in the book that he, you know, has in his little speeches on YouTube, which are just incredible. I really recommend it. Some of the really cool things that they did in the movie to kind of sell, you know, what's going on is a great example is the piano scene in the Ink and Paint Club, where the piano lid is moving up and down. You've got the stools jiggling about, and I don't think there's a single shot where a toon is interacting with the environment, where they don't have a chair moving, ricketing about, you know, moving objects around. The weasels, instead of carrying cartoon guns like they could be, are carrying real world cartoon props that were on wires and that were being manipulated by puppeteers off camera. Right. And you know, it's to create that sense of real world danger. And also interaction with the real world, which they tried to get in as much as they could. They had papers flying about when the rabbit, you know, jumps across the room, and having, you know, all these different interactions. It's a great combination of all the different elements to create something very cohesive. Yeah, I really like it. I'm done.
And also the robotic arms and things like that. They had to
for the plate scene with the breaking the plates and having him in the sink and
having him in the sink, and there was like a hose underneath the water that
that would spit out the water.
Yeah.
They also had in the scene where Eddie goes into the sort of diner, the bar, right, with you know, Roger underneath his coat. He had some kind of rig that had like animatronic things prodding outwards and inward, right. And apparently it was really hurting him, and he came home really black and blue from it. He must have had so many injuries from this movie, just like throwing himself about, being thrown about on wires, getting electrocuted in inverted commas.
Right.
And I think it's a great, and just on the note of VFX, it is a great rule of thumb for any VFX artist. If you are trying to make a VFX shot, you have to find the way to route it into the scene. When they have any kind of magic effects happening in a Harry Potter movie, you will notice that the gust of wind that occurs from it is also ruffling the character's hair or their clothes. You know, there's always like some kind of whoosh. Those things anchor it into the scene. If you're going to have a character take off into the sky like Superman, have some kind of leaf blower off off camera that's just going to blow, debris aside, make it more realistic, have leaves strewn about to have them fly away. And I think that this movie is a great example of, very pedantic animation, like really like every single moment considered, like even things like, her dress in the Jessica Rabbit's dress in the song. Light is transmitting through the dress. Forget the different layers that they needed for the optical photography there, the different layers of the sparkling and whatever.
Right.
But they also had light transmitting through the dress, so you had to be able to see the plate underneath it. And, it's not easy to lower the opacity of those things in those days. Like, you can just do that in a compositor, and it's like, see-through. How did they do that? Like, it's just wizardry. So I was really excited to watch this movie, and also talking about Richard Williams seems to bring up a lot of emotions for me and excitement. Sorry about that.
No, why should you apologize?
I don't know. I just think it's like I didn't
something
know
you're passionate
him.
about.
Yeah, no, but like I just the problem for me is that on a personal note, I have a lot of projects in my head that I wanted to do or that I want to do that I don't do. Because I don't have time, because I'm working, because I don't have money. And, I'm bootstrapping a video game right now. And that's, we've got a publisher for that, and that's going to see the light of day, but hopefully. But, I can't imagine what it is to work for 24 years on something that you are so passionate about. And you watch him in interviews, and he shows, like, he flips through the pages of the animation that he did, and he's describing Vincent Price's performance as the evil vizier, right? And he's,
Vincent Price.
And it's like, he's so passionate about it, and this is before it all collapsed, and it just made me so sad to watch that, like me sort of going, oh, Richard from the past. I'm so sorry, like, that this is going to happen to you. So anyway, okay, well, I brought everything down. So how about we sort of leave the attic then?
Yeah.
Or the garage?
Well, I mean, I'd love to, because it's getting kind of drafty in here.
They're also closing in over there, the little things.
We
So
need to leave now.
Yeah, now let's go. Go.
Okay.
VFX Attic.
Do we have to go up there every time we talk about VFX?
Well, I mean, we could go down to the animation garage next time
if
if
it's
it's animation.
Bit less scary?
No, it's just a garage.
Oh,
Empty,
nice.
empty, really. Nothing in there. But in the attic, we do have those lovely drinks.
Drinks?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get a drink.
No? I've been drunk by the ghouls. Anyway.
All right, then. Would you like to give us your closing thoughts on Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
I would love to, but first I think we have to pay dividends to our third and final sponsor.
Wow, we got a lot of sponsors this week.
Today's episode is sponsored by Pre-Masticators. Our customers suffer from a range of ailments ranging from itchy teeth, sore spoon-to-mouth elbows, and of course, chewing fatigue. Welcome to Pre-Masticators, the one product on the market that gives you food chewed by somebody else. Shut up. Can you not keep it together for a minute? Time and energy saved. Now that's what I call a time saver. That is spelled Thyme. Pre-Masticators takes no responsibility for hair loss, toenail loss, face loss, or buttock loss after consuming a drop of product. Do not go and see your GP, all rights reserved.
Wow, 5 a.m.
Oh no, that one I did last night before I went to bed.
Oh, I'm loving these new segments we got going on.
I'd actually like to also give an award to a couple of side characters.
Oh, go ahead.
The first award goes to the guy who says, "Paint from the rabbit's glove." That guy.
Okay.
Perfectly delivered. And the other guy who gets an award in this movie is the guy who goes, "You ever seen one of these?"
Very good.
That's it. Closing thoughts. I love the movie. I love the animation. I love the animator. And I love everything about it. Off you go.
I just wanted to say, in relation to what we were talking about before, This is a very adult movie that I would not show to my kids.
Oh, yeah.
And if you think about this, like, our parents took me to see this movie in '88. I must have been about 6. It's definitely one of those movies that, you can put it in the pile of scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Didn't damage me at all. But, it was like a PG movie that leaned heavily on the PG.
Yeah.
Once again, Mr. Steven Spielberg is the fucking culprit. He's always involved. Jaws. Indelible image of man spitting up blood while being eaten by massive shark.
Go on, name the next one.
Okay, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Dude ripping heart out of other dude's chest, lit from underneath. Obviously, that low lighting was frightening to me. And then the Raiders of the Lost Ark, melting faces. The dude is like he's given this unwarranted reputation for sugar sweet saccharine sentimentality, but the guy scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Spielberg. I love you. Also, Mr. Zemeckis. Look, watching this today, I've seen this movie many, many times, but I never fail to appreciate just how well done it is.
Yeah.
You think about Zemeckis' filmography, Romancing the Stone, Back to the Future. Back to the Future 2 and 3 also are excellent movies, I might add. Death Becomes Her, What Lies Beneath, Castaway, Forrest Gump, Contact. The guy made some amazing, amazing movies.
Yeah.
And this is like up there with one of his best. So
no exception.
Yeah. Yep. Very cool stuff. If you haven't seen the movie in a while,
watch it again.
Watch it again.
For sure.
Yeah. And if you haven't ever seen the movie, like my wife, for example, what are you doing?
Watch it now.
Go watch it. Drop everything. I don't care that you're at work. Watch it on your phone. No, that's too far. Don't watch it on your phone. Watch it on the big screen that we have in our living room. Just don't watch our Blu-ray because it's fucked.
I'd like to just add one more note to all the very downer stuff that I was saying about Richard Williams. If you think about this movie and the achievements that he made in this movie, like the progress that he made, this is something that you could choose to see as his magnum opus. Like, even though all the footage that you see for The Thief and the Cobbler is out there, so it's still there, there is a lot of joy to be found in the work that he has completed.
Right.
I just wanted to add that on to the end. And I love watching this movie because it is a complete work of his. He said in 2013, he says, "It's the doing of it that matters. Do it for the love of it. That's all there is."
Well, that's sound advice. I like that.
I like that as a way to finish this episode.
And there's two people that have basically gone into doing the thing that they love.
Yeah.
It may not be always exactly in the exact pinpointed area that we want to be. But at the end of the day, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah,
I'm making money off it, and that's more than 100%. I could ask for. Yeah,
100%. I enjoy making games in any form that they appear, and if I ever do VFX again, which I haven't done for a very long time, I'd welcome that as much as anything else. So, really great. Do you have any idea what we should watch next? Please let us know on the Facebook group or on the Twitter.
I don't think we're doing anything with the Twitter.
We tweet. Anyway, I really enjoyed that. Thank you for the conversation.
Well, thank you very much. And I will see you next week.
Indeed. Probably before.
And you, dear listeners, we will see you next week. Thank you very much for tuning in to What's Our Seat Number.
Thanks so much for listening to us.
Goodbye.
What's Our Seat Number? Sponsored by Icky Sticky Stuff.